All right, so today we are continuing with chapter 10 as far as going over the way products are produced and all of our different production processes. So, this lecture is going to be all about conditioning, finishing, and assembly. Your key terms to get to know are conditioning, heat treating, annealing, hardening, tempering, finishing, and welding. So you want to make sure that if you don't know what those are, you get to know them. Our objectives behind today's lesson is to identify different ways to condition the parts and products. We want you to be able to describe finishing processes, and we want you to also be able to explain how parts are assembled and the different ways that we could go about doing that. Conditioning refers to any type of process that we use to improve the material or change any of the properties of the material. So, in general, conditioning strengthens metals. So, we can use heat, chemicals, pressure. All of those are used to change physical and chemical properties of whatever the material is that we're using. Last week, of course, we made some different S rings. So this week we're going to be heat treating those S rings and see if that changes anything on the S ring. So we'll go through that process here in lab this week. So when we are talking about finishing, so again, when we're sitting here saying, all right, finishing is any process that we use to enhance the appearance of a product or to protect it. So when we're talking about preparing these surfaces and finishing, we refer to barrel finishing. Now, uh, what barrel finishing actually is, it's usually some type of a tub or barrel. There is some type of a substrate, or might be rock, might be abrasive, might be different, some other slurry type of mix where we would throw those parts in there. And then that barrel more or less shakes, vibrates, rotates to kind of provide a uniform finish. Maybe it's going to deburr parts, maybe it's going to give a certain type of surface finish on there, and that's what's referred to as barrel finishing. I think all of you know and understand what sanding is and what deburring is at this part. Of course, we can have a buffing wheel and some polishing compound to buff out and give it a shine. Brushing is just that. So where we take a brush and either knock off scale or uh, do different things there to kind of clean the surface as well. Polishing is going to make it shine. So we've got in addition to just regular hand polishing, we've got some other types of surface preparation called electro polishing, where we use electrolysis. There's chemical cleaning, ultrasonic cleaning, and vapor degreasing. So sometimes in the process, we might get of making parts, we might get any type of grease or oils. There might be other types of debris that are on there, and we would use some type of a degreaser on that to kind of prepare the surfaces for a next step in the process. We can talk about these coating surfaces as well. So a lot of times we use different types of surface techniques to protect the surface. So we'll talk about electroplating. You guys, we can talk about dipping. We can talk about painting. These are all types of coating surfaces. So, typically with steel, we talk about galvanization of steel. That galvanized process is a surface that we put over the steel to help keep that steel from rusting. We can also talk about anodizing, which would also be a chemical type of way of providing a surface layer that protects the internal part. Dipping generally is some type of plastic or Teflon or other type of material in there. Maybe we might, if you talk about different types of uh, I-beams and steel beams in skyscrapers, sometimes they are sprayed with some type of insulation or foam there as well. So we could also talk then about just painting the material as well. And all of those are done to protect the actual material that's inside. All right. When we're talking about assembly, so We have lots of ways that we can assemble parts together. So, of course, the one that you're probably thinking about the most is welding. Welding, of course, is a way to assemble and connect pieces of metal. It uses heat and arc, an electrical arc. It might be fire, and we might be using oxyacetylene torches. We might be use plasma. There's lots of different ways that we can weld, and of course that is a whole major in and of itself, just to learn how to weld and become very, very good and an adept craftsperson and an adept tradesperson in welding. Additionally, in assembly processes, we can also talk about adhesive bonding, where we're using different glues or epoxies to get pieces to stay together and seal. And then, of course, the other way that we can do this is called mechanical fastening, and that's you're all aware of mechanical fasteners there with our bolts and screws, nails. They're all different types of methods of mechanically fastening parts so that we as we assemble these together. All right, so the next category here then will be separating, combining, and filling. So this would be kind of one of, well, in some cases, this might be the very beginning of a manufacturing process, or it could go all the way to the very end. So your key terms in this will be separating, centrifuging, filtration, pressing, distillation, evaporation, fractionalization, chemical reaction, catalyst, and aseptic filling. So your objectives behind this unit and this section is to describe the separating processes and how they are used to make products. We will describe how combining is used to produce many of the products, and we'll describe how filling processes are used in production settings as well. So when we're talking about separating, it's any process used to separate a material into its component parts. There are natural separation methods like gravity. Sediment, heavier particles fall to the bottom just through ground or just through natural process of gravity. We can talk about evaporation. If you think about how salts are left after water evaporates, so we get the salt separated out from it just due to natural evaporation. These are very slow processes, and they don't always guarantee the right results. So manufacturers have utilized some of this to give us better ways to do this. So when we talk here about mechanical separation, we're going to talk about a centrifuge where we basically spin things to get them to settle out and separate. We might use filters, what's called filtration, that's going to remove larger particles as we pour some type of a liquid through a filter and are left with the larger particles. So, or we might take and look at pressing, where we more or less press a slurry type mix to squeeze out any liquid and just be left with the solid as well. So those are our separating processes. We can also use heat for separation. So distillation is a way to turn liquid to vapor and then back into liquid. And of course, that vapor, when it's in a vapor form, we pull different materials and different compounds out of that. So we can also, again, let evaporation take its course. We can cause evaporation to be faster by boiling off that liquid, so that we're only left with the solid once all the water has been boiled off. Fractionalization here heats a material to different temperatures. When you do that at different temperatures, the material is going to release different vapors or gases. At that point, we can recapture those compounds or those things that come out of the vapor or gas process when we do that. If we're talking about chemical separation methods here too, we can add different chemicals that cause a separation of particles that are in there. So if you think about heat and water, when we take and pour water into a coffee maker, heat that up, it's basically we can remove the caffeine from a coffee bean if we want to by using this type of chemical separation method. So we also then are now talking about combining. So, and you guys are probably pretty familiar with this. If you've ever done any type of baking, you've combined these materials together, different materials, you're mixing them together. We're generally kind of getting a chemical reaction to combine some of this. And of course, we can use catalysts that can speed up or start a reaction. So if you think about a chemical reaction, so especially in terms of baking, you might think about yeast that gets dough to rise. Um, we have these different types of methods that we can combine stuff together to get a chemical reaction, and um, your food, chemical, other products are often have to be combined and mixed in this method. Lastly, we're talking about filling here. That's where we're going to put. Lastly, we will talk about filling methods where we putting products into containers. So this is one of the very final steps before it goes to packaging. The main thing that you want to realize here is that we typically are doing what's referred to as aseptic filling, i.e., there's some way to sterilize that product. With that, we've got techniques here. Again, we can heat, we can use heat, we might radiate, or we can chemically treat these ingredients as well to help eliminate contaminants from getting into the actual product. All right, so on this PowerPoint, I will let you guys go ahead and kind of review for some of the test prep questions. So, very first one here, after materials are processed, conditioned process is often necessary. So, uh, my suggestion as you go through, I'm going to run through these. I suggest you stop the video between each one, pause it, and see if you can guess it right, and then go on to the answer.